morning. Thank you for joining us for the United Way of St. Joseph County's annual board meeting. I'm Jessica Brookshire. I'm the chair of the United Way board. I think we can all agree that the last couple of years have been challenging. We have readjusted our work, location, practices, methods, and even how best to make impact. Our community has responded and many have stepped up to help our neighbors. We have a lot to be proud of. Today, we are excited to reflect about the work that has been accomplished together and our plans for the future. At this time, I will introduce Lauren Smith, our Vice President of Mission Advancement.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Jessica. I appreciate you opening things up for us today. I am Lauren Smith, and I have the privilege of working with a really incredible fundraising team here at United Way. And I just wanted to take a few moments to talk about to reflect back on the really strong year that we had in campaign last year. Obviously, we entered into the second year of a pandemic, and the fatigue obviously had already set in pretty hard for most of us. But once again, this community really rallied together. It was the first year that we not only met but exceeded our campaign goal in years. And on top of that, we were able to raise an additional $1.4 million in COVID response, and not to mention all the additional grants and restricted funds that we were able to pull in that set the stage for over a $3 million investment into the community out of United Way's funds that just really kind of blew us all away, took us aback a bit. And we were really incredibly grateful to be a part of this moment in United Way's history and to see this kind of success and to see the rallying effort around kind of our response to a really difficult time. I think that it spoke volumes about what we are capable of when we unite. And it was a privilege to just, again, be on the team that brought that to fruition and to be partnered with so many of you who helped to make that possible. So we celebrate and we set our sights to the next goal. And in that, there's an important reality I think that we need to acknowledge, that a new benchmark has been set. Laura is going to take some time here in a few minutes talking about kind of the statistical needs that are rising to the top and what they mean for us as an organization and what they mean for us as a community. But what I will say right now is that investing $3 million into our nonprofit sector in a year is no longer just a short-term need or response. It's not a short-term solution. It's a new baseline of need. And so that's where we have our sights set, is to make sure that as the need rises, that we can rise with it. So obviously, we know that there is a tool that helps make that fundraising possible that is pretty specific to United Way, and that's our workplace campaign. And that is obviously a critical tool. And those dollars, those unrestricted dollars that we get from Workplace Campaign are those dollars that we get to reinvest in our partners here in the community who are doing incredible work. And the partners that make that possible are our corporate partners. And so every year we would love to have an event, and typically we would have an event where we sit together and we get to cheers and toast to the partners who have really taken a lead role in helping some of this investment take place. This year we will have a virtual toast. Maybe you have physical toast next to you. Go ahead and pick it up as we thank some of the partners who really helped make last year stand out. And that partner this year that we would like to acknowledge as our corporate partner of the year is First Source Bank. I think it's pretty obvious that they have taken an exemplary leadership role in our community and an investment in our community. And while we can't necessarily have everyone stand up and then make a speech right now, we did get a little pre-recorded message from First Source that I would love to share with everyone now. So be patient with me as we get this video going. Take just a moment. All right.
I think it's very clear to us at First Source Bank that United Way is very in touch with the families and the individuals in our community. And that was really evident during the pandemic.
First Source Bank and First Source Foundation history with the United Way goes back decades, more than half a century, when E.M. Morris served on the annual campaign committee when the United Way was called the Community Chest. In addition, Ernestine Racklin was the first woman in the nation to chair an annual campaign in the early 70s, and she also served on the World United Way Committee.
At First Source Bank, one of our core values is community leadership. And so at the bank, we look for partners that can help us lead in our communities. We highly value the organizations that United Way supports. And one of the statements that we always say is that we're only as strong as our communities are strong.
By giving to United Way, we can give to those that are most in need, that are low on resources, and I just think it's just an easy way for our employees to be able to give to those in need.
We are proud to be a supporter of the United Way, and we appreciate the efficient and the effective manner in which United Way raises funds and then distributes those funds to the areas most in need.
Thank you to United Way for your long-term partnership with First Source Bank.
Thank you, United Way, for really getting down into our community's needs to make it a better place to live, work, and recreate.
And I want to say thank you to our colleagues who have been so generous with both time and with their resources in supporting the United Way and then supporting our communities where we serve.
If you would, a virtual round of applause and gratitude for First Source Bank. We know that the need is growing and that the need is great. And in this time when the need was the greatest, First Source Bank and their associates and their teams, not just in our community, but across their footprint, they are invested in every community that they serve. They stood up and they had their highest campaign in years, knowing that they just had this heart to serve the community. And we were blown away. And I know our agency partners were blown away by the kind of support that we were able to pass through to them. And we are just really grateful for that. So we also, because we have this incredible resource of Workplace Campaign and our ability to then push those resources out into the community, we really want to acknowledge some incredible partnerships that were born as well for our impact partners, for our nonprofit partners in the community, who are the boots on the ground, who are doing this work, especially right now when things have never probably been more difficult, at least in my lifetime, from kind of this socioeconomic perspective. And so another award that we are really honored to pass along is the Impact Partner of the Year. And this year, we are acknowledging a collaborative effort between the emergency food response community within our St. Joe County. The Emergency Food Initiative was kind of born organically. It was born out of an intense need and an uptick in need around food insecurity in our community. And this network just kind of developed naturally between, obviously you can see here, our nonprofit partners, city government, food banks and pantries, restaurants and for-profit organizations, the school systems, all of these really powerful and intentional organizations came together because the need was overwhelming the system. And so you would see these conversations kind of happen pretty organically where someone would say, hey, we can't find X, we can't find this for our food pantry, and we need to get it out to our people. And somebody over here would say, we have that. And someone else would say, well, I have a truck and I can help with the transportation. And then some other organization would step up and say, well, we have refrigeration if anybody needs it. And this really organic and incredible collaboration was born. And I think at the height of it, it was probably upwards of 50 organizations that were a part of this Emergency Food Initiative. And as you can see, since they initiated this kind of collaborative work, they have served over 5.9 million meals. And this is just COVID era specific. This is not something that's existed for 10 or 15 years. It's existed almost 2 years. And so the 5.9 million, I think we got that statistic months ago. So I'm sure it has only grown. And this collaboration that was born has only continued to grow. And so this effort is what we really want to acknowledge. And I wish that we could have a video with all 50 organizations that we could hear from. But when we did talk to some of our partners, there were a few names and organizations that really stood out in people's minds as individuals who took leadership and took ownership over the Emergency Food Initiative and really stepped up in a big way. And so we do have a quick video just to hear a little bit more about that work and what the experience was like for everyone.
Well, it took a large toll on our organization from the very beginning when the pandemic, when it became real.
Beginning in March of 2020, we knew that we were going to have to dramatically change the way we did business.
It made it pretty scary, to be honest with you. We had to figure out, could we continue to do food service with the fear of people catching COVID?
We basically had to stop serving because we didn't want our clients to be infected, or our volunteers to be infected with the virus.
You know, we stopped feeding normally. No one came back to school, and we just kept going. So it was a huge adjustment and change.
Because at one point we couldn't buy food. Food was really difficult, and we would be in the pantry, in the grocery stores, and people would look at us like we were hoarders, not knowing we were representing a food pantry. So it got really difficult at times.
Prior to the pandemic, most of that food was coming from catering companies. So we really thought our food supply was really going to dry up. And we couldn't have been more wrong as far as the amount of food that was going to come in.
It was an indoor facility where people came and shop, and you know, with so much uncertainty because of the pandemic, things we didn't know, we quickly pivoted to a drive-through outdoor distribution.
We collaborated together to determine what the needs were in our community, and we worked together to try to find ways of making sure that those individuals who were food insecure because of the pandemic continued to receive meals, and that was extremely vital. We just wanted to make sure that nobody went hungry.
Many different organizations all play a role in feeding hungry people in our community.
And this group brought us together, and we were working as one, helping each other get through this.
It was just amazing because everyone was so scared and nervous, and you know, who knew what this was and what it was going to lead to, but everyone was like, we're here, we're going to feed the kids. And so that's what makes me most proud, just working with everybody.
We couldn't have done it without United Way, because of the resources that they made available to us, the purchasing power of being able to purchase the food we needed, and the support.
On behalf of our staff and board and the volunteers, we thank you for being part of this.
Thank you for thinking of us.
You know, none of this could have happened without each and every one of the organizations and the people involved, and the dedication that they put forth to make sure that all of our community clients receive meals, and no one, and I mean no one, would go hungry who we could reach out and help.
So yet again, another round of applause and a toast to these incredible people who, again, sitting down with some of these individuals and hearing them talk about the process. I wish we could fit all of their videos and all of the feedback into the message, because it was beautiful to see kind of this collaboration, but a sense of community that came in an area of nonprofit service that often probably feels fairly siloed and individual, and we're all kind of on our own in our own silos. And this really showed, and everybody spoke so eloquently about how much it meant to have this partnership, how much it meant to have another voice to hear. And this is why campaign is so important. This is why our ability to bring these resources together with leadership is so critical. And we are so proud to have even played a small role in convening these organizations, to see that much work get done and to see that much passion be poured out into our community to support families and individuals who are suffering with food insecurity. So on that note, I'm going to pass it off to Laura Jensen, our president and CEO, and she has the awesome privilege to tell you about some of the additional work that's been the focus of the last year. And so, Laura, I'm going to turn it over to you and turn myself off.
Thank you, Lauren, and thank you all for joining us today. This is hopefully our last virtual annual meeting. We are definitely ready to get back in person. And the hope is for next year to have it at our Southeast Neighborhood Center next March, which I'll share more about our progress in a little bit. A big thank you to FirstSource. I am truly grateful and blown away to have such an amazing community partner that cares about every single person in this community and understands that we all have a role to play in helping our community be as strong as possible. And thank you to our emergency food initiative partners. It was probably one of the coolest things that's such an understatement and not the best word to describe, to see all of the partners, just come together and put those egos aside in their community first. And having so many people on a virtual call care about the same thing and be committed to making sure that no one goes hungry in our community. And so with that, I want to talk a little bit about Alice. Alice, we talk a lot about. Alice, there are working poor, the individuals working paycheck to paycheck, but they are individuals that are constantly top of mind in our conversations, as United Way and what type of role should we play in the community. And we have about 26,000 households in St. Joseph County, and 43% of those have been identified as struggling, meaning they literally live paycheck to paycheck. They don't have enough at the end of the month to put into savings. And of those, 43%, over half of them are those ones working paycheck to paycheck. We looked at what the survival budget is in Indiana and in St. Joe County in particular, and we know that a large percentage of a household budget goes to housing and utility and food, and it leaves very little for anything else. And when the pandemic hit and things started closing down, while we were very grateful for some of the added benefits that came through state and federal funding that allowed these individuals to simply hang on and make it, the need for our community partners to rally around these families became even more significant. And so as a result of the pandemic, we know that those struggling in our county have increased by 6%. We added another 6,000 households to our county compared to pre-March 2020. It's a number that we are very concerned about, especially now with inflation increasing dramatically. Mary Jo from the food bank shared that they've seen a 38% increase in the number of households utilizing the food bank compared to during the pandemic. We look at, we saw a peak in the food bank and food pantry usage in 2021. It dipped again, went back up when numbers went. It's gone back down, but again, it's skyrocketing. And the conversations that, we're hearing from our food pantry partners that they're having with the individuals utilizing the food pantry is, they can barely keep up with the cost of gas, let alone the cost of groceries. And so, again, we're seeing first-time users utilizing the food bank and the food pantries. And so it's really startling and goes back, to Lauren's point about, the need for these types of funds in our community are still significantly needed. And there's still a very large role for us to play. And so Alice will continue to be, the forefront of our conversations and making sure we're keeping a really close eye on those families in our county that are struggling. I want to talk just a little bit about our COVID fund. I would be lying if I said that I am sad to see it go. While I am so incredibly proud of the role that we played, it was a really long and hard 2 years. But we raised $4 million. Again, if you're on the call last year, I shared that I thought $500,000 was ambitious. And so you can imagine to see $4 million, it's so incredibly overwhelming. We have $3.6 million awarded to date, with the remainder being allocated. And so we were really intentional to stretch out our COVID fund. While there was so much, like it was so easy to have just poured it all in within the first couple of weeks or the first month or the first couple of months. So grateful for, the expertise from local community members, from the Lilly Endowment, from our board that was, we need to stretch this out for the long haul. Never in my wildest dreams thought we would be still talking about this 2 years from now, but I'm so grateful that we had the funds available in our community to get us through these last actually 2 years. It was March 17th when we launched it. And we had our of 2020. And so we'll be wrapping up those funds in the next couple of months. We served over 58 agencies. Some of them were current, impact partners, and some of them are they're new partners, some that we've never engaged with before. What I loved about the COVID fund is that it really allowed our nonprofit partners to come and say, here's the need in our program and the families and the clients that we're working with, and here's how we're going to address it. We really look to them to be the experts in determining the best way to serve the community. And we got to play the role of, providing those resources and bridging those gaps and helping make connections between different partners. Some of the ones, on here, we looked at, Oaklawn, they had to switch to telehealth services. So to be able to provide the funding that they needed to purchase the technology to continue serving their clients, it was so incredible because, mental health is such a huge need in our community. And during a pandemic where suddenly you're at home, like the need for mental health support and services, it just, it grew so significantly. We were able to fund mobile vaccine clinics, and we focused, the focus was on the Southeast side and very hard hit neighborhoods throughout South Bend. Some of the others, like SCAN, we helped them maintain their parent visits by allowing it to do, to operate virtually, as a child that's been separated and removed from your home. And we personally have experience with our niece who we've adopted out of foster care. Those visits are so sacred and they mean so much. And so to be able to provide the funding to keep those visits going is something I don't think I can thank our community enough for. The 58 agencies and growing, it's just been so fun to get to know so many new community partners in so many different and unique ways. We are still collecting data from our partners who received COVID funds because, we've extended them over the course of 2 years, and some of them, just received their funding. So be on the lookout for our COVID wrap-up report of what we were able to accomplish and really what our partners were able to accomplish in our community during such a critical time. And I want to move on to some of our other programs and partnerships that we don't really talk that much about, but play a really critical role in our community. And we believe that at United Way, we should serve as the convener and the collaborator. That's our role of bringing resources and partners together. And we've worked really hard the last several years to step into that role and stay in our lane. And so 3 programs that I want to talk about that became so incredibly needed, especially during the pandemic, are ones that we've had. 2 of the 3 we've had for a very long time, but they're kind of quiet and fly under the radar. So our Team Heat program, it is a privately funded utility assistance program in which we work with about 7 different nonprofit partners to administer utility assistance in the spring and the summer. What I appreciate about the program is that it's very generous in terms of eligibility. So often the utility assistance programs that come out from a state or a federal level, they're very strict in terms of the income guidelines and requirements. So with this program, our partners are allowed to go up to 250% of the federal poverty level. So we're really trying to hit those ALICE families. Last year, we had 401 unique clients. Really proud of the word unique. Many of you have heard me talk about VisionLink over and over and over. It is a case management tool that our nonprofit partners administering rent and utility assistance have been testing out for us and working out the kinks. But we're able to get unique data instead of just saying, in general, we've served, we've had 500 and cases. I can't tell you how many people of those have been served multiple ways until now. And so we had just over $56,000 in utility assistance paid out, over 749 bills. And the way that this program works is it's a match with the individual. So what they are able to contribute towards the bill, we are able to match. And many of our partners also go through financial literacy and case management to really make sure that we're seeing the whole individual and working with that client instead of simply providing utility assistance. It's how can we help move you from one place to the next. The other program that we actually don't talk a lot about is Emergency Food and Shelter. It is a federally funded program in partnership with United Way Worldwide and FEMA. And so we received multiple phases. So this is just phase 38 or 38, in which we were able to distribute $169,000 in either mass shelter or food. So being able to support our homeless shelters or St. Margaret's House and their kitchen, as well as rent assistance and utility assistance. It also provides funding to be able to be utilized for emergency housing assistance. And so many times our nonprofit partners see an individual that needs a quick hotel stay to get either, they had to move out of their home quickly or they've moved into the area quickly and they're in need of assistance. And so that supported 774 unique clients. What I'm excited to share is we just allocated and awarded phases 39 in ARPA. And so we've just allocated just over $370,000 to our partners to continue working in the emergency food and shelter realm. It's made up of a local board. So one of the things I love about United Way is that, us as an individual, I do not make funding decisions. Our team does not make funding decisions. We really rely on the community. And so the Emergency Food and Shelter Board, it is made up of government officials. It is made up of representation from American Red Cross and Catholic Charities, the faith-based community, the homeless community. It's a very intentional board that is dictated by, the seats by this, larger partnership from United Way Worldwide. But again, when looking at current data from 211, we saw in 2020, 2021, about a 200+% increase on a monthly basis. And the top 3 calls were rent, utility, and food assistance. What we've seen more recently is that those are decreasing by about 3% each month, the number of those calls, which tells us this type of funding is still needed in our community. And so it is a role that we're able to step into and a role that we're grateful to step into. A newer program, very similar in terms of hitting those basic needs, is our Double Market Bucks. It is a partnership with United Way, with WIC, with Real Services, and Purdue Extensions. We just added Real Services this past year. But what it does is it doubles the value of WIC and senior farmers market checks. And so clients are able to receive an additional $24 to use for the farmers market season to really encourage them to go to the farmers market. We, in the first 2 years of existence, it was for 4 farmers markets throughout St. Joe County. This past year, we added a pop-up farmers market over on South Bend's west side because it had been identified as a food desert. And so we had just over $29,000 worth of these double market bucks redeemed in 2021. And so it's really a win-win all around. It's a huge benefit for, the families that are utilizing the program to be able to access fresh fruits and veggies, but also those farmers, and supporting local businesses. It's a program that we actually, it's down in Bloomington and going, incredibly well. And it was, a conversation and an idea that was brought to us of, could we consider this? Is this something we would support and play a role in? And it was a really easy yes. And we have some really incredible partners in Purdue Extensions, particularly Becky Lease and her team, and George bringing on Real Services as well as the WIC office. We were able to expand into Marshall County this past year. And the way that the market bucks work, not the matching dollars, but the WIC dollars, it's a use it or lose it. So as a state, they're reviewing at a county level the utilization rate. And so if they're consistently seeing things aren't, those funds aren't being utilized, then we're at risk of losing those funds for our county when we know the need is there. And so the reason we came up with this was to incentivize individuals, instead of $4 a time to go to the farmer's market, you get $8. And we've constantly made tweaks along the way. And so we printed the checks, in English and Spanish, and the materials in English and Spanish. It's, the WIC office doing an incredible amount of outreach and going, directly to the individuals or meeting them in the farmer's market parking lot and giving them the whole stack, of vouchers to be able to redeem. And Purdue Extension's really working with the farmer's market and the different vendors to increase the number of vendors that will take not only the WIC vouchers, but these vouchers as well. And then First Source Bank, being the bank to say, yes, we'll take on and help you with this, kind of non-traditional program. And so we are excited to see what this next farmers market season looks like. It'll start in July. It runs through October. Now that things are starting to feel and return a little bit more to normal. Two other programs that I really want to talk about that are new for us, as we know, I'm not telling you anything new, but as a community, as a county, transportation is a huge, huge, huge barrier for the families that we're serving. And so one of the programs that we are piloting this year with the city of South Bend and 12 community partners is our Ride Guarantee. It is a spinoff of the city's Commuters Trust program, but focuses on nonprofit partners. It launched in October of 2021. We've been able to support over 2,500 free Uber or Lyft rides across 142 individuals. We expanded to include Catholic Charities and URC as they stepped up to take on the Afghan refugees. And what I love about this partnership is it's just been easy yeses between us and the city. What I find interesting is when looking at what the data that we've collected, of those 142 participants, more than half of them are women over the age of 30 and making less than $10,000 a year. So I'm going to let that sink in for a second. Many of them are mothers and solely responsible for taking care of their children. More than half the rides have been either for accessing doctor or medical appointments or going to work or a job interview. And we get they do a weekly survey and then a monthly survey. And, some of the anecdotal feedback is, it allows me to take care of my family. It's allowing me to achieve the goals that I've set. It allows me to get out of the house because I don't have access to a vehicle, or it allows me to go from the location in which I'm staying to a job interview or to a doctor's appointment. There's actually a significant amount of individuals that are using it to go to the grocery store. Very basic things that I think so many of us take for granted. And so Some of the other data we're capturing too is, how do they feel? How does, accessing this, if they didn't have access to this program, how would that impact, how they're feeling and as an individual, as a parent. And so it's something that we hope to continue to build and grow, because the feedback from the partners is also just as overwhelmingly positive, that this is an answer to so many of our needs. And, we're able to see clients because they're able to get here, or we're able to get them from our program, to a specific location. So the individual, they have up to $35 per ride. They just have to start or end in St. Joseph County. And they have to be over the age of 18 or with someone over the age of 18. And they also have the option of using a bus pass as well, an unlimited bus pass, which is updated monthly. When we started working on this Uber and Lyft program, we realized, transportation getting to and from a program, that's a huge need. But also there's a significant need for having access to food and other, needs, and having them delivered to your home. And so United Way Worldwide, it was a very quick turnaround. It was early November. They sent out an email and said, hey, we have this opportunity with DoorDash to expand and do free deliveries in your local community. Is there interest? We kind of thought about it for half a second as a team, because it was like, yes, there is an interest, and we will figure this out. We are the only United Way in the state of Indiana to take this program and take advantage of this program. And one of the reasons we're able to do so and feel confident in taking on this program was because of the network of partners that we have, our nonprofit partners, our food pantries, our relationship with the food bank. And those relationships are continuing to grow, and we're expanding the number of partners that we're working with, that it was, we don't have to look for who can utilize the program. We already have them. And we felt like it was something, that it would be a disservice to our community if we passed up. And so we applied, and it was, okay, great, you're starting January. And so we very quickly started putting things into place. And so with Boys and Girls Club of St. Joe County, they were our first delivery. We delivered to over 90 households, brand new coats and shoes. And it was really cool for the Uber driver, or for the DoorDash drivers, because they had no idea they were part of this program. They just see on the, their end, they get their app notification that there's a pickup. So, they all went to the Boys and Girls Club, and they're like looking around, what are we doing at the Boys and Girls Club, and what are we picking up? And then they very quickly realized, like, they're delivering coats and shoes to kids and parents that need it. And, what we found continually as we've done, deliveries for Clay Food Pantry and the food bank, is there's a lot of satisfaction for those Door Dashers to be a part of something bigger. And it takes the burden off of so many of our nonprofit partners to have to make those deliveries or have to turn down a gift because they have no way to get them out to the families. But the biggest thing is that this really reduces the stigma for those families of going to the food bank and loading up their kids and going and picking up food. You get your pizza delivered by DoorDash, and nobody even thinks twice about that. We have funding for 1.5 million deliveries from now through December. We've been told that we're one of the model programs, and Jim Baxter, who's overseeing the program for us and helped get it launched for us, he was asked to present yesterday on a call with United Way Worldwide of how this is going. And we've also started thinking differently. Earlier this week, we launched with the St. Joe County Police Department and the 525 Foundation, their prevention program. And so they have 9,000 doTERRA bags to be delivered, or that can be delivered in the community. doTERRA pouch is a way to safely dispose of medications. Because I didn't know this, you're not supposed to flush or throw out any pills. Because for various number of reasons. So you rip open the bag, you dump your pills in, you fill it with warm water, you shake it and you toss it, and it's biodegradable. We know that a significant number of our seniors living in St. Joe County, they want to take advantage of the pill take back days, but transportation is the issue of getting there. And so this is a way to get those pouches to them. Anyone can sign up. Anyone can receive a pouch. There is no income, limitations or anything like that. You can find the link on our website, on the police department's website, as well as the 525 Foundation. And so, never would I have imagined back in November, that we would step into the role of prevention and be delivering drug pouches. But it's again, we've got what we've on the plus side of COVID, and the time that we spent developing relationships is people are willing and wanting to think differently. And we're just continuing to think, how do we expand this DoorDash partnership? How do we bring on more partners? How do we utilize, our health systems and our health departments, community health workers, when they know what needs are? How do we connect the dots? And then again, it's supporting the DoorDashers. It's, steady income for them. So these two partnerships together, the Ride Guarantee and the Ride United, are really helping to address those transportation barriers that we see in the community, think differently, and really utilize, the strengths of so many different partner organizations to really help our community and really kind of level the playing field in terms of accessing, programs or services. One of the other partnerships that I want to talk about is On My Way Pre-K. So we, United Way wrote the grant for On My Way Pre-K in 2017. On My Way Pre-K is our state's federally funded pre-K program, but part of the requirement is that you have a philanthropic match. I cannot take credit for this. This was my predecessor in the team before me, and Ready to Grow as well. But since 2017, we have, in partnership with the Community Foundation, the Family and Children Center Foundation, we have supported the philanthropic match for On My Way Pre-K. This current year, we have 255 4-year-olds enrolled in free pre-K for our county. And that's a huge, huge, huge win for our county. And they are children that otherwise they would still potentially be on a wait list, or they would not be in a pre-K program. And we know that pre-K is so critical when setting them up for success as they enter those school years. And so just really grateful for partners willing to say yes and take a holistic approach of, supporting our entire county, because when our children are able to go to childcare, to pre-K, we're able to go back to work. And it's just this constant cycle of really supporting and ensuring that we have a strong community. I am hopeful that next year, as things return to normal, we'll see an uptick in the number of children enrolled in On My Way Pre-K. That number is a little bit lower than what we've seen the last couple of years, but we know a lot of that has been simply because of the pandemic and some of that hesitation to return to school or send your child off to school for the very first time in a setting that, isn't quite normal. Two other areas in early learning that we're working on helping to grow capacity is through our quality improvement grants. We just administered our third round, was $140,000 in partnership with the city of South Bend to 29 early learning programs. And the goal is to either maintain or increase their quality level and standards on Indiana's Path to Quality. The really unique thing about this is that the funds can be used really anyway, so they're oftentimes when we have grant opportunities for our child care providers, they're for professional development or very specific things. And so we relied on the coaches that are working with the programs and the programs themselves to say, here's what I need to increase or maintain my quality level. So It's going to furniture or materials or, learning materials or art materials or technology needs, to be able to use different assessment tools or even purchasing the assessment tool, which is one of the criteria for levels 3 and 4. This year we had Emily Rupchuk. She's overseen it the last 3 years, and so this year we're looking at how do we improve. We want to make sure the application is translated into English and Spanish. We're looking at very specific neighborhoods that have a high number of childcare homes and providers that haven't been on our radar before, but being really intentional and helping them to improve their levels of quality. And so very grateful for Emily to be taking on that role. And she was also the big driver behind our non-formal CDA. The CDA is a Child Development Associate. It is the kind of the lowest level of credential that you need to work in a licensed child care home. It's 120 clock hours. I've actually been through the 120 clock hours, and it's a lot. When I was in my former role at El Campito, I went through Ivy Tech to get some early childhood classes, and it's a really big commitment. And what we know, a little bit of everything, we know that there are a significant number of homes that have really dedicated teaching staff and owners that have been in the fields for decades, but they don't have that official, CDA behind their name, and that's prohibiting them from being licensed. But there is, we understand that a formal setting, a college setting isn't for everyone. And so this is a really safe environment for an individual that's been in the field or is kind of unsure of, whether or not this is what they want to go into or if college is right for them. So it's been housed at South Bend City Church. It's 40 sessions. And we recently moved to the St. Joe County Public Library since they've opened. I'm grateful for them sharing their space as well. And we have over 20 students enrolled. They'll finish with the 120 clock hours, which they can then, if they choose, take to Ivy Tech and start with 9 credits towards their associate. And we cannot have done it again without the city of South Bend and their support of can we try this? We don't have this in our county currently. We haven't had it for a significant number of years, and it's a huge need. To have so many students enrolled and stay enrolled it's a huge win and shows just how committed these individuals are to completing the degree. It's Monday nights from 6:30 to 9 after working all day, in their childcare home or the center. We also have some Head Start teachers as well. And so we look forward to, continuing that and fine tuning that. But our goal is really just how do we increase the number of quality childcare programs in our community, and how do we go at it from all angles? How do we increase the workforce? How do we increase the number of those programs? So that way our parents have choice, our children have choice in where they want to go, if it's a home, if it's a center, if it's a ministry. Because that plays a big role too in the overall health and well-being of not only that family, but our community. One of our, I'm throwing so much at you, my voice is going hoarse, just a second. One of the big challenges that United Way worldwide put in front of us this past year was really taking a stand in terms of your role in the community, our role in the community, when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and making sure that we were being really intentional with who we fund, how we fund, what we fund, that our internal policies and procedures are, inclusive and reflective of the community that we're serving, that our board is reflective of the community that we're serving, and that our board and our staff are trained in diversity, equity, and inclusion, that we put out a statement, denouncing racism and really stepping into this role of championing equity. And so a word that we've been, talking about, and we're working with Dwayne Wilson as a consultant who's the CEO of Boys and Girls Club, is being resolute in change. So resolute means you're purposeful, you're determined, you're unwavering. And so it's, being unwavering and determined and figuring out what is our funding model moving forward. How do we invite all people, all programs, all partners to the table? How do we build a longer table? How do we make sure everyone has a seat at the table, whether it's their own that they bring or one that we provide for them? And so, we've started with the board training, we started with our equity statement, and we're working on, what is our purpose? How do we create a community that's, in which we remove systemic barriers? How do we kind of redo policies and procedures, and what does our funding model look like moving forward? How do we, become resolute in this change? And so we are in year 3, almost halfway through year 3 of a 4-year funding cycle. So our Community Impact Committee and our Community Impact team, led by Letitia Johnson, is working through what is our new impact plan, moving forward when this funding cycle ends, and being really intentional about our support in the community and unwavering in that commitment to equity. And one of the ways that we are looking as an organization is, how do we build a more equitable community? How do we make sure everyone has access to programs and resources, is through our neighborhood center work. And so the Southeast Neighborhood Center is really our first kind of where we're headed in terms of addressing equity. It was very intentionally placed. We knew that that neighborhood needed access to childcare and healthcare, and needed access to social services, but it also needed access to, programs like dance and fitness and sewing and tech classes and financial literacy classes. And so the Southeast is really trying to address those barriers by reducing transportation and increasing accessibility and bringing everyone together. The way this center is being set up and governed and overseen is, we'll have a neighborhood council that'll be made up of residents that live in the Southeast, of clients and families that participate in programming, as well as key stakeholders in the Southeast, because we really want to make sure that we hear their voice and that it's heard. And that's really the foundation of what this neighborhood center is about, that it was built by and for the community. It is if you have not gone by the corner of Fellows and Dewbale, I encourage you to do so. You can't miss it, I guarantee. It is currently under construction. It'll be finished in August. And there's a picture of the groundbreaking. It was so incredibly overwhelming to see. We had over 70 individuals there. We had students from Riley High School. It was a perfect day. And those are some of the neighbors that live in the neighborhood. They wanted that shuffle, that they have been a part of this since 2018 when we started. And this is their neighborhood center. And Zolkowski Construction is, is building the building, and they're very familiar with the neighbors because they're over all the time asking, where are we at? How much longer? What's this? We had an amazing group from Riley High School come out and support us as well. And they're helping to build a home with 466 Works, which if you're looking at the photo, it's just down the street, south a little bit of the center, about half a block, and there's a big sign, you can't miss it. And just really bringing the community together to create change and provide hope in a neighborhood. And I never, ever, ever would have imagined such an incredible and emotional groundbreaking. That was in January. The steel and the roof, thanks to COVID, some pretty significant delays, but it's in and it's up, and it's currently wrapped in the bright yellow, which is why you can't miss it. The masonry is starting hopefully tomorrow, if not early next week. And we can't wait to invite all of you to the ribbon cutting. We have some incredible partners coming in. We have Head Start coming in and offering infant through pre-K providing transportation for those families. We have the Bowen Center coming in and increasing the number of mental health supports we have available in the community. We have a pharmacy with Healthy You coming in and a clinic coming in as well, because those have been huge needs. And then partners like Real Services and the Family Justice Center and Brain Train and kind of everyone, Logan Center, providing programming on the early childhood side, and working now to fulfill that commitment of kind of those fun things for those the neighborhood to engage and interact with. So I've got my warning, and I need to wrap it up. It has been such an incredible year. You know, when you're so focused on the day-to-day and getting through each day and looking at the next, it's really hard to step back and see what was accomplished in this community this last year. And you know, while it's our annual meeting, United Way's annual meeting, I really need to be thanking each and every one of you on the call and our nonprofit partners for stepping up in ways that you never saw yourself and doing. And for our, you know, our donors and our board, we are United Way because of every single person on this call. So thank you so much for joining us. It's been a wild ride and it's only getting crazier. And for that, I'm truly grateful to be a part of, and thank you to the team, you know, that really drives United Way forward. So I'm going to give you back 4 minutes of your morning, because this is a really long Zoom call, and I hope to see all of you at the ribbon cutting later this summer and then next year in person at our annual meeting.